Hey, John, welcome to the Retention Edge podcast. Why don't you give us a quick introduction to yourself?
Hey, hi, Eric. Good to meet you. Hi, my name is John Heenan. I'm the CEO of a business called the Distribution Solution, based in Northern Ireland, in the UK, and also in Europe, which gives us a great advantage that with all the Brexit and everything else, we can actually ship without customs issues into both the UK and the EU, which is unique. And let me tell you, coming from Northern Ireland, I never thought I'd find anything unique about coming from here, but we'll leave the politics out of it. We've been in the fulfillment business. I think we started just before about 1998. We used to be in the travel brochure business. We had a client said to us they're going to put their brochure on a thing called a CD-ROM. And we thought if this thing catches on, we'll be out of business. Slowly but surely. And actually, this is a true story. I went and bought a book and a CD set of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And that was about 1999, and it was $50. And I went FedEx overnight international shipping, $50. And I go, seriously. But I wanted it, so I bought it. 8 days later, FedEx man came to the door, and my darling wife Lorraine answered the door, and he asked her for £23.69 for the VAT, the duty, and the admin. And that got me thinking. And that's how we got in the fulfillment business, because I emailed them back in those days. I faxed them, I phoned them, I wrote to them, couldn't get in touch with them. And then I thought, what if I could find American clients looking to ship into Europe, and we could be their step into Europe? And that's how we got into it. So that's over 20 years ago.
That's hilarious. Um, that's a great way to get kind of started. And so you've grown the business now. You're working with, 100 or so clients or something like that at the moment across a bunch of different industries. I guess first things first, since you just mentioned it, how did Brexit kind of impact the business? Obviously, this was a little while ago when it first started, but how did that kind of change the trajectory of the business and how you guys kind of operate?
For us, it was an absolute blessing. As I said, because of Northern Ireland and the political situation, and we'll not get into that, but Northern Ireland is on the island of Ireland. The Republic of Ireland was in the EU. The North of Ireland was in the UK. Whilst they were both in the EU, it was okay. There was no problem. But once the UK left the EU, it would have meant you would have had to have a border back on the island of Ireland between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And that was never going to happen again from a political and all that good stuff. So they came up with what was known as the Northern Ireland Protocol. And what that meant was that Northern Ireland, from a goods point of view, was still in the EU whilst also being in the UK. So we can ship into the EU and ship into the UK without the customs declaration or the customs issues. So we got a lot of companies coming from GB, which is the UK mainland bit. A lot of them started looking to come to Northern Ireland because they were having huge issues shipping from GB into Europe. And by basing their operations out of Northern Ireland, that was solved. And so it's taken a number of years, because it's funny, Eric, even I don't think the authorities really had this sorted out at the time. It's taken a couple of years for it to settle down. And now you can see it's people are getting to understand it. And so we've got a lot of clients now coming from GB who are serving both the GB, the UK and the EU market, and they're come to Northern Ireland because it's a ideal situation. So it's been a blessing, as I say.
And earlier, me and you were kind of chatting about how you've been in the industry now for 20 plus years. You've kind of seen e-commerce essentially start more or less all the way to kind of where everything is now. I guess within like the 3PL space specifically, how have you seen your job, your company's role change over the last 20 odd years?
I mean, software's made a huge difference. I mean, if you go back at the start, as we were saying, it used to be everybody built their own shopping cart. We had built our own warehouse order management system. We had to integrate every single one of those. And then I'm trying to remember, there was WooCommerce and Magento and BigCommerce, and different ones came along. And then Shopify, obviously, and it's sort of made it plug and play in a lot of cases. So it's simplified a lot of things. And I think one of the challenges is it's very easy to get an e-commerce business up and running. The concept of build it and they will come is long gone on the web.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen so many people put effort in, and it's not the businesses fail. It's the owners get tired and just quit. And I've seen that happen so many times. Or having an idea for a product and they can't scale it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a blessing in one way, but it's also a curse. So it's every, you and me can go down to the bar, have a drink, have a beer, and by the end of the beer, we can come up with an idea for a business where let's go build a site, plug Shopify that we're in business tomorrow, and we haven't got a clue. And that happens so many times.
And so obviously 3PLs and just fulfillment in general play a gigantic part in any e-commerce business, right? There's these higher and higher expectations in terms of delivery times. And well, I think a lot of that has been driven by Amazon, right? They kind of perfected that model of, shipping to the next day or shipping within 24 hours. And now it's shipping within the hour, shipping within a couple hours. How has that kind of race to fulfill orders as quickly as possible changed your business in the last decade or two?
I mean, like everything, there's good and bad to it. It has definitely driven up standards.
Mhm.
But the downside of it, and I'm sure you even see it yourself, you see couriers come to the house. I speak to him, and the guy's dropping something off at 7:20. He's been working from 7 o'clock this morning. He's peeing in a bottle in the van because he hasn't time to stop. I mean, you can go too far with some of this. I think maybe some of it needs to be dialed back. And the expectation that this creates that I can order something, it'll be at the door in an hour. Okay, that's okay. If you look at it in communities, if I live next door to a shop, I can go next door and get it in a minute. That's grand. But one of the challenges is that we create expectations and then they're hard to meet. You have people who hear of what Amazon do and, delivery within an hour, delivery within 2 hours. Oh, I'll do that. Well, hold on a wee second. First of all, who's the market? What are you trying to service? You
Mhm.
got to think, you got to go a little bit deeper. And it's a bit like, well, one of the things, if you look at fulfillment in 3PL, in a certain way, it's actually part of your brand experience. So you need to be careful what you're picking, what you're getting involved in, and what expectation you're creating for your client.
Mhm.
And I don't think too many people think that out enough.
And obviously, actually use the word brand experience, right? How do you ensure that you're helping your clients or helping even advise them in creating the best brand experience from your perspective?
So first of all, identifying what is the expectation. Okay, also who is your ideal customer? What are you trying to create? What are you bringing to the marketplace? Is there a market for it? Do people value it? One of the things are like I find people they talk about added value, and they go and do something. Oh, we're going to give a free calculator or whatever. It doesn't matter. We're adding value. And I've often said, have you ever checked with the customer to see if that's actually means anything to them? I said it's a bit like I'm sure it's happened to you where you went and done something for somebody or you got somebody something and you did it for them and they barely said thank you to you and you went out of your way to do and then you found out it didn't mean anything to them, but it meant a whole lot to you. And all you do is end up hurting yourself. And I see a lot of people doing that in business and doing things what they think this is what their customer will want and this will add value. And it doesn't increase sales. They don't get retention, doesn't work. And I've said, did you check with them? Did you ask them what's of value? So that's an area that I think, again, when it comes to brand experience and what the people expect. And you also then sometimes have to turn around and say, hold on, we're not capable of doing that. Depending on the marketplace that you're in, if you're going to produce a nice leather bag and try and go head to head with Louis Vuitton, I wish you well with that. You'd be amazed at some of the stuff people come to us with.
So obviously you just brought it up. You just brought up the whole idea of like the customer experience, but also like customer loyalty at the end of the day, right? Getting them to buy again from you, and a large part of what you just said, like offering that little gift or something like that isn't just for, okay, like thank you for buying from us. It's hoping that that customer is going to kind of buy again. So where do you think most brands are going wrong with fulfillment right now, and how maybe do you fix it internally with your business, or just in or how should these businesses look at fixing it just in general?
Okay, I think maybe from a EPL point of view, we can help give some advice because we have seen other people do things and get the experience. I'll give you a quick one. This happened a number of years ago. We had a client develop this product. It was for winter golf. So it was a little gadget and you could fit 5 clubs into it. Instead of bringing your whole trolley with you in the winter, 5 clubs and away you go. Wonderful, beautiful package box, the branding, everything was glorious. He got these boxes made, shipping boxes. First load of orders come in. I think the first day there was over 400 orders went out. within 3 days, he was on to say, John, hold on, stop. He was now getting feedback from the customers complaining that they were coming in branded boxes because people were buying them for presents and they didn't want people to see it coming to the house. So if you think about it, so I was saying to him, you were thinking your target market was golfers who played golf in the winter. His main target market was the wives and partners or husbands of partners of golfers who were buying it as presents. Because if you think about it, Eric, there's lots of things that you wouldn't buy for yourself, but you'd love somebody else to buy it for you. And that's what a great present is. And this is a great example. I never understood this before. I met a guy in the States years ago. Okay, maybe not. I hope he doesn't mind me using him. It's Davik umbrellas. They do umbrellas. So I met Dave and said, just chatting. First time I met the guy in New York, I said, Dave, how'd you get in the umbrella business? He says, I'm not in the umbrella business. I thought, he sells umbrellas. 5 different types of umbrellas. He sells umbrellas.
Yeah.
I'm not in the umbrella business. And I says, okay, no marriage, but I don't think I'm that stupid. What do you mean you're not in the umbrella business? He says, John, our umbrella is a very highly engineered quality umbrella. You want to see them? They're incredible. You want to see the package? They are unbelievable product. He says, John, we're in the gift business. I went, wow. He's talking about understanding your business. And so if you take that, if I had got into that business and I was in the umbrella business, how I would go about branding that and promoting it and doing it would be totally different to him who got into it. This is a gift business. So how would you, if you bought a gift, if you bought a beautiful umbrella for your father or your mother, whatever the case may be, how you'd want it packaged, the box, everything just smells of quality. So that's the difference, if you understand.
And when do you think that a brand should be doing fulfillment themselves versus using a 3PL like yourself? Are there any situations that you think of when it makes more sense?
I've seen it in both cases, and I've heard great stories. Somebody starts off making things in their bedroom, and they come home from work and they get the orders and they pack them and go down to, and it's beautiful, cute story. And hey, lots of things have started that way. I've seen other people who have spreadsheets, galore and everything measured out. And I suppose to a certain extent, it would start on your own circumstances, the funding that's available to you, and how you're going to grow this. One of the biggest challenges is actually managing the growth. And you talk about retention. One of the things that really put people off is, you go to bat and it's not available. Somebody produced something and it's great, and your friends tell you about it. You've been highly recommended. You go to get it, and it's out of stock for the next 2-3 months. Because the supply chain, it's manufactured in China or Vietnam. It takes them a month to get the slot in the factory. It takes 2 months for it to come out. It takes another 2 months. And I've seen people produce stuff, run out of stock, and their whole business was based on bringing this on a container from China. They had to put it in the air and fly it in, and it practically bankrupted them. So my mind is, like 3PL and fulfillment. It's not just about the function of holding other people's goods, picking, packing, and shipping them. And maybe this is just me. I actually want to get to know you. I want to find out about your business. And if I can actually help you not make some of those things, that's what's valuable to me.
I guess what you're saying, it's almost like risk mitigation in a way, right? Like you spend a lot of time in this space, where the mistakes that these brands are going to make are. You understand the supply chain from kind of start to finish, and so you can kind of talk to any business owner, get a laydown of how they're doing it right now, and basically get an understanding. Okay, like here's the risks with your business right now, and here's where we can kind of step in to kind of help solve for that, right?
Yeah, that's
Understood.
it.
When brands are picking a 3PL provider, how do you recommend they go about choosing the right one and kind of investigating who's going to be kind of the right choice?
I think the most important thing is to talk to them. If you're just sending out emails and filling in forms on people's websites and get me some prices, and unfortunately, in the majority of cases, that's what people do. They make a decision based on price. I would say the most important thing you need to do is engage with them and ask them, can they speak to some of your clients? There is nothing to beat personal reference. It gives personal references of what you've done and also in what space. If you've got someone, we've got clients, some of them with 2.5, 3,000 SKUs. You want to check with somebody, have they got clients that have more than 100 SKUs? Because if they've only ever dealt with clients with 50 to 100 SKUs, and all of a sudden there's 2 or 3,000, it is different. Whilst it's exactly the same, go and pick it and whatever, but the realities of that is different. So I would highly recommend, if you're genuinely, contact pick a couple of clients. You know, if in a lot of cases where their base is not relevant. So if you look at the likes of Ireland and in the UK and whatever, it doesn't really matter if they're in one end of it or the other, because they're all using Royal Mail, DPD, FedEx, all the same
Mhm.
carriers who've got an overnight network, and that's it. So it, in a way, it doesn't really make any difference. And you'll see people promoting the fact we are very centrally located to this and that. In a lot of cases, it doesn't make any difference. It's not important. So
Well,
identifying what actually is important to you and engaging and speaking with people. And I know, and this is one of the issues, Eric. So most of these young people and all the rest, the last thing they want to do is talk to a human being. They just want to
yeah.
text and email it. But if you want to do yourself a favor, you better off speaking to people and ask them, give you examples. Can I come and see? Make sure. I mean, a bad 3PL will put you out of business, and I've seen that happen. We've recently just taken on a client 2 months back, and the previous 3PL lot, and this is in sterling terms, lost over £60,000 worth of stock. The whatever system they were using, they weren't using it properly. Couldn't identify stock. They couldn't fulfill orders. It was an absolute nightmare. So you have to be very careful.
Let's say you were talking to a business owner and they're investigating, multiple different options, multiple different vendors. What would you say are like the three top red flags that they should be looking at when they're evaluating vendors? Like if you were to say focus on these three things, what would those top three things be?
Examples of clients that they've worked with, references, real life references. And I don't mean sort of, my friend Eric, ring Eric, and he'll tell you I'm wonderful. I mean, genuinely, even as much as, again, depends on the size of your business and what, to go and visit the person who actually is using that 3PL and have an honest conversation to him. Say to him, this is serious for me. We've got a business. We're doing 1,000 shipments a month or a week. I can't make a mistake. Can I meet you for a coffee and have an honest conversation with you? Now, bear in mind, we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. I'm not talking about cutting people to death, but I am saying make sure, ask the hard questions. It's easier before you get into the relationship. It's much more challenging getting out of it.
That makes complete sense. I guess for a little interesting tidbit from you, what are kind of from off the top of your head, other than the 60,000 pounds of lost product, what are some of the nightmare stories you've come across over your years?
One, somebody starting and buying 2 container loads of stock from Taiwan. These were dog bowls. So I can't remember how many was in it. There was something like maybe 20,000 dog bowls. I don't think they sold 20 of them. Okay, test the market. You know what I mean? Just because
Yeah.
you've got the money and you can go and buy this. I mean, that was, and the mad thing about that was that lady was in the market. She was a professional marketeer. Okay. And so sometimes what happens is because I do this, I think I'm great, and then I try to do it over here. There is a difference sometimes when I work for you and I do something for you, and when I work for myself and do it for myself. There's a bit of a difference sometimes. So that was one thing. Stuff getting lost. A ship came from China, docked in Amsterdam. Container was mixed, put in a lorry, gone to Germany, and it should have came. You just
Yeah.
and then it disappears, and then they find it about 9 months later, and it turns up at our door. You wouldn't believe some of that type of stuff that happens coming in a container, and it's been on the high seas, and the moisture in the cartons, some of the damage sometimes, and maybe they didn't insure it well enough.
Mhm.
Just things like that there. And then sort of closer to home, people running a campaign, and this is nearly worse. They run a campaign, it goes fantastic. They've only got 200 items and they've 2,000 orders, and it's going to take them 6, 8, 10 weeks to get replenishment. So testing markets, it is a balancing act. I'm not saying it's easy.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And so I guess if you were giving advice to someone just starting out, okay, starting from scratch, what are one, two, three tidbits you kind of give them to like make sure to get right as they're starting out?
Test your market first of all. There's, we all have great ideas in the shower, in the pub. Test it out, get some samples. So if you're going to sell these, and you can get them down to £1 if you buy 10,000 of them, well, I wouldn't suggest buy the 10,000. If you get 100 off them, you have to pay £10 for them. Go and buy 100 off them at £10. Go and see what they sell for in the marketplace. Test them, get some honest feedback. Don't just bring it to your friends. Oh, that's brilliant. You look gorgeous. All that stuff. Do some genuine testing before you commit yourself, because there's been so many disasters and so many young people get really burnt and hurt.
And
So,
let's say you were talking to more established business, right? They're doing 1,000 orders a month, 2,000, 3,000 orders a month, whatever it might be, and they already have a 3PL. What advice would you give them to look at to see at ways for them to lower their costs, improve their speed to delivery, or any of the different variables there? What do you think that they should kind of look at, or tips that they have to kind of improve that experience?
well, the first thing is to accumulate data. The most important thing is getting the data in this. So, for instance, if you've got a 3PL, you want to be checking to see, okay, what percentage of your orders are getting picked and packed within the agreed time it said would happen,
Hmm.
what percentage are accurate, what percentage are damaged. Measure all those different things, because there's no point just going to another 3PL and saying, can you reduce my costs? Yeah, I can reduce your costs, no problem for you. But there's three things. There's speed, cost, and quality. Which one you can only get two. That's the way, that's reality of it. And so if you want it as cheap as chips and you want it quick, well, the quality is going to be a bit ropey. But if you've accumulated that, if you're an existing business and you've been using a 3PL, you should have good, accurate information. And that's the most important thing, making sure, our warehouse management system produces phenomenal reports. You've also got to be careful, Eric, because there's also this thing that, where information rich and analysis poor. We've got loads and loads of information, and you haven't got the time to analyze it. So getting to understand what's actually important, what's important to your client. We talked about the brand experience. So what's actually important?
Hmm.
And if you think about it, what tends to happen is that, it's whatever squeals the loudest you react to. But there could be an undercurrent in your business that you're not watching, that people don't come back. Any agent can sell something once, sell it twice, there, build a relationship with the client. So that type of thing. And again, go and ask your clients. People like to be asked questions. It makes them feel part of it. If you tell me what to do, you're managing me. But if you ask me questions, you're leading me, you're engaging, you're drawing me in.
That makes sense. John, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. I think everyone listening would have got a lot of very valuable advice, whether they're starting something from scratch or they're a little bit more established and they kind of know what to look out for. Appreciate you doing this, man.
You're very welcome. Great to talk to you.
Thanks.